Hey friends and fam, this is Simply Rob Vasilarakis, spokesmodel for the 2023 HIV Stops With Me campaign, coming to you from Washington Heights in Uptown Manhattan with the June 2023 question of the month. This year we are celebrating Pride at a time when the LGBT community's human rights are under attack across the country. What do you see as the greatest threat to people living with HIV, and what should be done to prevent or change it? We are living through some very interesting and seemingly dangerous times. There's a whole portion of the country, particularly on the right conservative side, that really seems to be motivated by this like fear, conspiracy-based narrative. And I agree with the question that we are living through a time when the LGBT community, particularly the T community, our trans brothers and sisters, and our non-binary and gender non-conforming siblings are really being vilified and dehumanized and just perverted. Their existence, their very existence, is being perverted. They're using this old scare tactic that they used to use with cisgender gay men around pedophilia and protect your children, they're coming for your children, and what a way to motivate people with fear and anger, right? And so this fear and this anger and this lack of tolerance, the dangerous pieces, not just for our physical well-being, under physically being attacked, but also it's making its way into our legislation. And they're trying to strip us of our rights to health care, right? And where does that stop? How do you determine when a certain group of people should be granted a right to health, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, and spiritual health, right? And where does that buck stop? That's where it gets really perilous, right? Because once you start to modify or strip away certain rights for a certain group of people, then where does it stop? Where do you draw that line? And so in terms of like people living with HIV, right, I want to be clear that HIV is not an LGBT disease, right? It's the human immunodeficiency virus, human, during a time when we are being dehumanized, right? And so, if you're stripping the right of LGBT people, right, at what point does the buck stop, right? If you say that there is no right to gender-affirming care, then do those people not have a right to HIV meds as well, so that they can stay healthy, and keep their HIV at bay and their virus suppressed? What can be done to prevent or change it is that we can get up off our couches and stop being these social media warriors. Although I believe that social media is an effective tool to speak out against injustices, but we really need to mobilize. We need to take to the streets. We need to vote, not just during a presidential election, but during primaries and local elections, so that we can educate ourselves about who it is that is stepping up to try and represent us. Because I think part of the problem is that, one, people are not showing up to vote, and two, when they do vote, sometimes they vote against their own interests. So to really educate yourself on who is stepping up to represent us and what do they really represent. I still have hope though. I live in an amazing country and a beautiful city and state like New York City that abounds with resources, even though those resources are really being taxed, as the red states are doing really disgusting things like busing people up to New York from Texas and Florida, because we're a sanctuary city and we will receive them. and they know this, right? And so, you know, um, if you see injustices, call it out, and align yourself with others that are willing to stand up and call it out as well. In any case, I will end this on a loving note by saying that no matter what we do, right, even if we're calling out injustices, that we do it with love. Lead with love, lead by example, and lift up your voice. Stand and lift up your voice. And with that said, if nobody told you yet today, let me be the first to say that I love you, de corazón, and HIV stops with me.